Well, crush or restore, it's time to make a decision.
3 years ago I bought my dream home, and it just so happened to be an old wooden boat. I spent a year at sea falling in love with the lifestyle, completely unaware of what was happening beneath me. And in the last episode I found out the truth.
Yeah, that's the big issue with the boat. So this is what's left of the frame.
The boat isn't just tired. She either needs a complete rebuild or she needs to be let go. I have a big decision to take. To either give up my dreams and walk away, or to commit to restoring her.
I've taken the decision whether to crush the boat or not.
It was 1949, and just 4 years earlier, Europe had been liberated from the clasp of fascism.
The unconditional surrender of Japan.
And now the world was rebuilding. Industries were booming and harbors were coming alive. And along the coastline of North America, wooden boats had entered a golden age. Every marina was filled with handcrafted vessels, and companies like Chris Craft had become household names, building elegant wooden cruisers for a new generation chasing freedom on the water. And here in the Pacific Northwest, one designer had begun to stand above the rest. His name was Edwin Monk, a naval architect and boat builder, whose designs became legendary along the cold waters of the Pacific coast. Monk didn't design boats to sit still in marinas or luxury resorts. He designed them to cruise through the waters of the Pacific Northwest. Handcrafted hulls built to cut through the water to save on fuel, to get you far up the passages of the northern coast. And sometime during this post-war boom, this boat was born. Long before I ever stepped aboard her, before the rot, the rust, and the neglect, she was someone's dream.
And throughout the years, she has been many people's dream, and in some ways she has now become my dream, and I think understandably so, because it is a lovely boat. So this is a tri-cabin cruiser, and really the way I like to look at it, it's basically like a cabin on the water. So if you want the experience of living in something that feels like a hand-built cabin in the woods, but you want the flexibility of being able to move and explore this beautiful coast, this is what these kind of boats were built for. Usually you'd see this kind of layout where in the aft cabin we have a galley and a dining area. And before I removed it, this had a big cast iron stove, which is a perfect way of heating up a boat like this. But for long-term living, I would say I much prefer something like a propane setup for cooking, but using diesel to heat the boat. And that was something that I was going to convert. Now, the boat is equipped with beautiful bronze hardware, but back then, bronze was out of fashion. So what they did was they chromed it, which I much prefer bronze, maybe you do too, and it gives a perfect opportunity to have something to restore and bring back to what I think is its intended use.
Now, of course, this boat also has an aft deck, and here is some footage from when the boat was in the water before all of this turned into a construction zone. It's a really nice, spacious aft deck. It doesn't have any hard-mounted furniture, there's no washdown station, but it did come with a little bimini to hide away from the sun and the rain. Generally a very nice place to hang out.
When it comes to the galley cabinetry, it's arguably somewhat nice. This is of course not solid wood, it's all plywood, but I do think it's original. These cabinet faces are made of solid mahogany, but over the years it has started to warp and things are not really working as well as they should, or as they once did. And then here just at the door is the fridge and the freezer combo. This thing has been the bane of my existence for a few years here. It's somewhat spacious for at least one person, but the freezer compartment It basically never works good enough. You can't really store anything in there. Condenses and freezes during the night, melts during the day, and you basically end up with everything in your fridge being a soggy mess. So not a fan of combo fridge freezer. On port side of the boat we have the dining area, and this is a solid mahogany table. I'm fairly sure that all of this is original, but someone took a really poor decision to paint the beautiful mahogany cabin sides white, and that is pretty much a crime, I think.
You in jail. Right away.
Now, I'm not a big fan of the original layout of these boats, and I know a lot of other monk owners agree. They are a little bit awkward. If you are cooking, you have guests over, you have very limited space to do your cooking, and you're always facing your back against your guests. These dimensions are also a little bit awkward. You tend to slide under the table when you sit here. You can't really be that comfortable. There's also some decisions that have been taken here that are a little bit crazy, like putting the septic tank under the sofa and doing it in a somewhat poor way, so when you're having your food you are smelling about things you don't want to smell. And then as we move forward here at the bulkhead of the head, there is a pantry, and oh hey, what are you doing in here? Come. Now, I wouldn't hang my clothes in here. It's another instance of poor design choice or not knowing what you're doing, and there's no ventilation here, which means that on the water this gets moist and musty, and if you keep your clothes in here, you're gonna basically grow a new organism. And then in here we have the head. So this head is not necessarily poorly designed. It has some issues. The cabin sides are rotting out. Pretty much this whole sheet of plywood would need to be replaced. And then we also have the issue of this basically being ready to just come off here. And there's a lot of rot hiding behind here. The plumbing is also not really done correct. There's no anti-siphon on anything in the boat for some reason. Maybe whoever did that did not know about the importance of those kind of things. And then down here we have some sliding cabinetry. This goes straight into the hull of the boat, and there's a bunch of deck leaks here. So whenever you're storing your medicine or whatever you got in here, these bins get full of water. Ask me how I know. They're still functioning, but they are starting to warp and yeah, delaminate too. And then I'm sitting on a old plastic Jabsco hand flushing toilet, and it's not my favorite. For me it's fine, but when you have people on board, you basically become the toilet flusher and tutorial man. Which be nice to have a flushing toilet, at least for the guests. I can do the pumping, but I don't want to deal with my mom's dinner. I think it was possibly redone sometime in the 60s by owners that loved Dutch windmills, as you can see in both the tiling in here and in the galley. It's a nice spacious head, but I think this space would be much better as a galley with a hole in the wall here into the wheelhouse. It's a lot of wasted real estate in my opinion, but it has served me well as a place to brush my teeth and shave. Here's a quite unique detail that I haven't really seen in any other monks, and it's this highly detailed tiling here in the roof.
I'm just gonna have to pause the video here for a moment. While I was editing this, I had a bit of a aha or uh-oh moment, and I suddenly started to suspect that these tiles might actually be made out of asbestos. So I'm in touch with a company that is hopefully going to come out to the boat and take a sample, and then I'll know whether this is asbestos or not.
And unfortunately it would have to go, because it has started to rot and deteriorate in some places, and there's just not enough of these tiles to save it. But it is something that, you know, I've actually enjoyed. I know some people absolutely hate it though. Now another detail here on starboard side above the galley is this lighting situation, and it is a case of horrendous choices. So the light is a bright bluish white, and when you're here at night and you're cooking, it is basically like throwing a flashbang into the cabin. It is very artificial, and it reminds me of staring into a computer screen, which I'd rather not do. Too modern for me. Up here where the aft cabin meets the wheelhouse, there is a major rot pocket. So a huge part of the roof here is rotted out, and it has unfortunately made its way all the way down into the cabin sides to a point that I can stick a knife through the wall here. That is something that would need to be rectified. Now let's head out of the aft cabin and forward into the wheelhouse. Now this is arguably my favorite area of the boat, and I think it's really what sold me on her. All this beautiful exposed wood, matte varnished, lots of big windows to let the light in to see the ocean through, and especially these leaded glass windows up here. And they are just absolutely stunning. And I think Atja prefers this area too. Hey, do you like it here? Now, as we've been living life on the hard here, this has basically become the living and sleeping area. There are no fixed furniture here except for a bookshelf that I believe is original. There is a bed here, and that is just a IKEA folding out sofa that turns into a nice double bed. Here we have the steering console, a beautiful old wheel and old hardware. Now, of course, there are rot in both sides of the cabin.
Both sides here would take some major work to deal with, as it has spread from the roof into the walls and likely down into some of the structural parts of the hull.
A lot of the cabinetry in here is deteriorated. As you can see, this whole wall is basically coming out of the boat. Let's put that back. The electrical is ancient. I'm fairly sure that a lot of this is original from the 1940s. There's a lot of fiber or cloth covered cables. There's evidence of the old gasoline system. The fuses are really old, and even being on the hard, I am somewhat uncomfortable knowing that this is in the boat. It's a classically steering cabled controlled boat. That all connects here. An old copper tank for the coolant. Some pretty cool stuff. Got the oil alarm. And quite a few really nice looking old instruments. It's just a fantastic place, and this is what makes this boat feels like home.
Now, underneath the floor of the wheelhouse is the engine room, and there is a depowered Lehman 120. It's depowered down to 99 horsepower. And if someone knows why they did that, I would love to know. Just leave me a comment. The engine has about 3,500 hours on it, so I mean, it's barely broken in. The boat carries about 400 liters of diesel, and it's equipped with a water heater.
Now, the V-berth is where I used to sleep, but it's become more of a storage area now that we're on the hard. And this is really the one place of the boat that I know for certain has been rebuilt and redesigned at one point. There is clear evidence of a bulkhead right there, and there are through holes down below, which tells me that this was once a head, and likely berths on each side. The forecastle has 6 bronze portholes that have all been painted over white.
What the f?
Once again, should be a crime.
Right to jail.
But of course it is something that has potential to be restored and shining bronze once again. Now there are evidence of rot and decay in this plywood deck. This is not the nicest way of doing the roof, and this console that holds the chart table and the steering station is rotting and falling apart because of deck leaks around the window. So it's all things that would need to be remedied. And then of course all the way forward in the bow we have the chain locker, and that holds about 300 feet of chain. Up above we have the foredeck, and I'm going to show you some footage from when the boat was on the water to give you a nice idea of what it's like up there.
The foredeck is quite spacious. It's a nice place to hang out at and eat in the summer. It has a beautiful old bronze windlass that is still functional, and a really nice delta anchor. Up on top of the wheelhouse there is a little sofa and hangout area. This was added sometime down the line, maybe around the 60s and 70s, when it seems like the boat was going through a big renovation. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of it.
Well, as you can see, it is an absolutely lovely boat and it's a lovely home. This has been my cabin on the water, but of course the reality is that the state of the vessel is a lot worse than what I thought it was when I first acquired her. This is what's left of the frame. Yeah, that's the big issue with the boat. So of course the big question is it worth to restore this boat, or is it time to let it go? And that is a decision that I think I need another perspective on. So let's go and see if I can get a hold of my friend Peter Knowles from the channel Travels with Geordie.
Peter has spent the most part of a decade working on multiple of these boats and living on board. And he, if anyone, could tell me whether this is worth it or not.
Hey, there he is.
How are you?
How are you?
Good to see you.
You know, you're at a point where the boat is sort of at the peak of, oh my gosh, right? So you're still sort of entitled to second guess your decisions, but you are pointing out that it takes a lot to not bail. I mean, it takes a lot of personal fortitude. You know, I often refer to, you know the guy Doug with SV Seeker, the steel boat? One of the original boat channels, build channels. But he often said, what did you make today? And that has a lot, that rings with me, because my whole thing is handmade, right? Yours too, you know, in that if we can't continue to perpetuate a culture of making things with our hands, fixing things with our hands, you know, then we're gonna let go of an entire part of humanity. I mean, I think that's almost what defines us, right? Yeah. And it takes a few people like that will take the risk. I mean, you gave up a lucrative career and changed your whole life to do this, but now you're hooked, right? You can't really let go, because what you're really doing is investing in yourself. You know, you're not investing in your boat. It's not a good investment, but you're planning to be a happier, better, more thoroughly rounded person at the end of this than you would have been if you'd sat in a, you know, design chair all these years, you know. So it's not easy, you know. This is like, this isn't an easy thing. I'm considering making a commitment that something is really too far gone. But you won't be the first person that's tried to fix something that was too far gone. Certainly just in our boating community, we know about that. I mean, look at Leo, all right? So it certainly can be done, but it takes a certain kind of person and a certain kind of fortitude. And then that person needs to be able to lean on a certain kind of community. There are very, very few people who can restore these boats anymore with their own pocket money. I mean, very, very few. And it would certainly be argued that it was a bad investment, as we've always said. Oh yeah. You know, that great thing I always say, you know, for every dollar you invest in a wooden boat, you raise the value by a dime. It's you know, and the other 90 cents or maybe $2 is personal fortitude and gratification and satisfaction. These are all the things we always fix on these boats. Yeah. Nothing is, you know, it's normal to take one of these boats and say, yeah, well, that's rotten, that's rotten, that's rotten. We got to fix it all. And it tends to be a repetitive process. I mean, you have a ton of broken, cracked, and rotten ribs frames, well, you'll be reframing for a while. These are the things that is the process of fixing these boats. It seems daunting because no one likes to see rotten wood, compost, mulch, etc. But it is just made out of wood. And if you have the time, energy, and support, you can certainly do it.
It's not an easy decision whether to crush or restore the boat. I've had so many good times on board already, and I was planning to have a lot more.